Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, June 2nd. I'm Stephanie Haney. This is your 3 News Now early update, where we bring you the latest information on what's going on in Northeast Ohio and around the world as it impacts us here in the state of Ohio. We start today by a reminder of how we got to the position we're in today and also where things stand in terms of seeking justice for the death of George Floyd. George Floyd was killed by a Minneapolis police officer who has now been charged with third-degree murder in Floyd's death. 3 other officers were also fired related to that killing. Bystander video does show the officer, Derek Chauvin, holding his knee on Floyd's neck as he says that he can't breathe repeatedly, and eventually George Floyd stopped moving and later died. People are now demonstrating not only because Derek Chauvin has only been charged with third-degree murder and people are not happy with that. They are also demonstrating because the other 3 officers who were involved have not been charged, though all 4 officers have been fired, and people are also demonstrating for a variety of other reasons. Those are some of the stated messages that we've seen reported. To let you know where things stand today, a medical examiner on Monday classified Floyd's death as a homicide, saying his heart stopped as police restrained him and suppressed his neck in a widely seen video, which sparked the protests that we are seeing here now across the country. An autopsy that was commissioned by Floyd's family found that he died of asphyxiation due to neck and back compression. That's according to the family's attorneys. Here in Ohio now, in Cleveland, a curfew related to demonstrations that occurred in downtown Cleveland has now been extended once again. The city's emergency alert system sent out a message this morning saying the curfew will be in place through Wednesday, June 3rd at 6 a.m. That is consistently through that time. But then also after that, the downtown Central Business District and also the Market District in Ohio City will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's Wednesday through Friday, with a curfew being underway from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's not immediately clear at this time whether the curfew will extend and pick back up again at 8 p.m. on Friday or if it will end at 6 a.m. on Friday morning. Of course, we'll keep you updated with that on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. The curfew has already been extended multiple times. The latest was supposed to end today on Tuesday at 8 p.m. before this alert went out early this morning, letting people know that the curfew was again extended. If you are in any way involved in these areas, the city has said that credentialed media, residents of the restricted areas, essential medical personnel, and essential personnel with the city are permitted to be in the restricted area, but do be prepared to have proof that you are permitted to be in the area. If you are a resident of these areas, that may include proof of residency. If you don't have identification that has your current address on it, you may need to bring something that has your address on it, as well as a photo ID. If you are with the media, you will need media credentials. Of course, the people in the media know that. So the order from Cleveland Mayor Frank Jackson said that office workers will not be permitted in the restricted area unless officially designated or excluded in the mayor's proclamation of civil emergency, which we do have for you on WKYC.com. So for that reason, all businesses and place of employment are urged to remain closed for the duration of the curfew. That's in the downtown Central Business District and also in Ohio City's Market District. Today on social media, people are seeing something that's being referred to as Blackout Tuesday as protests continue around the country demanding justice for the killing of Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and so many more people. This is a movement that's been put in place to show solidarity, spreading across multiple social media platforms today. What people are doing is they are posting solid black images using the hashtag Blackout Tuesday. So the idea here is to fill Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter with black squares, freeing up the time usually dedicated to social media for people to educate themselves about the Black Lives Matter movement. Blackout Tuesday, as an idea, was initiated by 2 black women, Jamila Thomas and Brianna Ajimang, in the music industry. This is according to theshowmustbepaused.com. This is an initiative where the major music labels across the country are joining forces to support black artists. They will not be releasing any new music today. They will be instead taking this time to reflect and think about how they can move forward to affect change in the space of racial injustice. As of 8 a.m. this morning, the Blackout Tuesday hashtag on Instagram had more than 4.5 million posts posting that simple black square with just the hashtag Blackout Tuesday. Now, the people who have organized this are stressing that this is not just a day-long fight, and it's not a day of silence. It's a step in a direction to correct years of institutionalized wrongdoing. And Twitter user Nicole Raquel Dennis wrote that this is framed as a day to halt self-promotion, to stop streaming, and support the movement. The idea here is to listen and learn and to amplify Black voices as they speak about their experiences and what can possibly be done to move forward in this space. Here's another note from Cleveland native Yvette Nicole Brown, who posted this on Twitter. If you are taking part in the music industry-led social media blackout on Tuesday, please use hashtag Blackout Tuesday and hashtag the show must be paused. This is instead of using the hashtag Black Lives Matter. The reason for this is hashtag Blackout Tuesday and hashtag the show must be paused are dedicated to the cause, and they won't disrupt information sharing under the Black Lives Matter hashtag. Many people involved with the Black Lives Matter initiative are sharing on social media that they use the hashtag Black Lives Matter in order to share information. So by using the hashtag Black Lives Matter today, it's actually clogging up that feed and preventing people from getting access to that information. So again, asking that if you are participating in Blackout Tuesday, please do not use the Black Lives Matter hashtag. That is per the people who are involved in the Black Lives Matter initiative. In national news, President Donald Trump is threatening to deploy military if governors do not act to stop protests that do have violence occurring at those protests. This is amid racial unrest across the nation. Trump on Monday threatened this to deploy the U.S. military to American cities to stop these violent protests. He said he would mobilize thousands and thousands of soldiers to keep the peace if governors did not use the National Guard to shut down the protests. So under the Civil War era Posse Comitatus Act, federal troops are actually prohibited from performing domestic law enforcement actions. This includes making arrests, seizing property, or searching people. However, in extreme cases, the president referenced this, the president can invoke the Insurrection Act, which is also a Civil War era act, which allows the use of active duty or National Guard troops for law enforcement purposes. In making this announcement, President Donald Trump called himself the President of Law and Order, and he made these statements from the White House's Rose Garden last night. This was as military vehicles drove up Pennsylvania Avenue and military police and law enforcement clashed with protesters nearby at Lafayette Park. Tear gas explosions could be heard, and authorities moved what appeared to be peaceful protesters in the park. This was just after Attorney General William Barr came to the park to survey the demonstrators. And after this confrontation, and minutes after his speech ended, Trump made a brief visit outside the 200-year-old church near the White House that was set on fire over the weekend. According to senior defense officials, between 600 and 800 National Guard members from 5 states were being sent to Washington, D.C. to provide assistance with stopping violence occurring in that area. Those troops were either already on the ground or were expected to arrive in D.C. by midnight. Early this morning, late last night. As many people are speaking out about what's happening around the country, a former driver for Martin Luther King Jr. is sharing his thoughts. Clarence Bozeman, who was a senior at Alabama State University in 1958, had the unique pleasure of becoming the personal driver for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He says he saw so much during that time, and sadly, in 2020, he is seeing much of the same. Bozeman said, "I have never seen as much discord as I did in '68 when Dr. King was assassinated. We have over 30 cities that were burning, and I see the same steam in America now. Even though we made progress, there is much to be done." Bozeman went on to say the atmosphere in America is charged. It's charged with racial hatred. It's charged with man's inhumanity to man. He said, in times like these, protesters are hurt and are looking for change. And intense videos like the ones recorded in the case of Floyd do not help the situation. Bozeman said, quote, "This too shall pass, but unless we learn from the lessons of today, it is going to take us longer to get through this if we don't adhere to what the protesters are telling us." Again, the message there being to listen and learn from the people who are very hurt and affected by this situation, as everyone is hurting around the country related to this in different ways, and people are struggling to understand each other. To bring you up to date on the latest COVID-19 numbers here in Ohio, these are the numbers that we received yesterday at 2 p.m. The total number of cases in the state of Ohio is now 35,984. On Monday, we saw an increase of 471 new cases. The total number of deaths in the state of Ohio is now 2,206. That is after seeing an increase of 51 new deaths reported on Monday. Now, keep in mind, this is based on the expanded CDC definition of both positive confirmed cases and also probable cases. So these are the numbers that are reported to us by the Ohio Department of Health. That number of new deaths was an increase from what we saw over the weekend. Over the weekend, from Friday to Sunday, there were 24 new deaths reported. So yesterday, 51 new deaths reported. The total number of hospitalizations dating back to March 9th here in the state of Ohio is now 6,112, with 63 new hospitalizations reported on Monday. The total number of ICU admissions is now 1,569. Again, that's also dating all the way back to March 9th when we first learned about COVID-19 being here in the state of Ohio. There were 13 new ICU admissions reported on Monday. What will happen with COVID-19 cases is definitely a cause for concern among health professionals, as people have been in close proximity demonstrating over the past week related to the death of George Floyd. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that here in Ohio. We will not have a 2 p.m. update for you today, but as soon as those numbers come in from the Ohio Department of Health, you can find those on WKYC.com and in our WKYC app. This is Stephanie Haney. This has been your 3 News Now early update for Tuesday, June 2nd. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 11 a.m.